of Ghostbusters Afterlife, and all I can say is it was absolutely incredible. And for those that don't know the synopsis of the movie, it basically follows a family who moves uh, to a sleepy town, and they inherit this house which is basically falling apart after their after the kid's grandfather dies, or the dad to the mum. And we find out at the start of the movie that the mum hasn't met his her dad before. He basically abandoned the family when she before she was born, so she never actually got to meet his dad. And obviously, the kids have never met their family. Um, and they basically moved there because they've been evicted from their apartment from the big city that they lived in. And I think they lived in New York, but I can't remember. I know it's terrible. I just actually watched it yesterday, but I think it. So the movie stars Paul Rudd, who plays Mr. Gary Gooberson, who's a summer school teacher, and he also is a seismologist. And it also stars Stranger Things Finn Wolfhard, who he plays Trevor, one of the children in the family, and McKenna Grace, who plays Phoebe. And McKenna Grace was in quite a few different things, including she was in the what was that movie? Yeah, she was in Captain Marvel and a couple other TV series. But I won't reveal their last name, as that's a spoiler to who the family are. Um, and the movie reunites all the original cast. And prior to this, the PlayStation. Well, all the Ghostbusters. Actually, the other person plays as a CGI hologram, as a ghost. So, well, that's a spoiler. Sorry. And so, as I said, prior to this, I was informed by yourself actually that the PlayStation 3 game which reunited the original cast was considered Ghostbusters 3. And in my mind, although I've not played that game, I think that the movie was everything that the first reboot should have been. And I know that of the movie before this, I think they were just trying to tick boxes, like of diversity, rather than actually make up a good movie. But and obviously, I'm all for diversity and everything like that. Obviously, being disabled myself, but um, I think you've also got to have a good storyline as well. And yeah, the movie failed. The movie failed on the storyline part. Um, yeah, same. I have no issues with that either. But it just they just tried to relaunch the series without sort of acknowledging what's gone before. But yeah, but this latest one does that, and actually, in the credits, they actually have the original theme tune playing in the credits. So the special effects are much better. Like, um, obviously, it's many years later, but yeah, uh, yes, they did. And in actual fact, in one of the scenes, they have these. Well, actually, many of the scenes, but I'm not going to actually spoil it. But in one of the scenes, they have. Um, you know how they had had the big marshmallow man? Was that Ghostbusters? Was that Ghostbusters 2? Was that, or is that as the first one? So they have these little hundreds of little mini marshmallow men, and um, and actually looks like the original, but in a smaller scale. But as I said, in terms of the effects stay true to the original, but it looks more realistic. They've updated it, they've made it more real, but used a similar style. Oh, that's a hard one. Um, I well, they're much better. Put it that way. Much, and they see the other one, the other reboot seemed fake. It's kind of like I think they're just trying too hard. Where this one seemed more realistic in quotations. Yeah, and it was, and the actual storyline, it kind of gave me like a Stranger Things vibe because uh, kind of focused on the younger cast, the story. So it wasn't like a load of adults, and mostly followed around the kids of the family that moved in, which isn't a bad thing, but it was really quite good. But I got the feeling, and the end credit scene, I think, kind of signified that. Uh, Definitely, I don't know if it'll feature the family, but they are setting up for another movie. Um, and in the credits, there's a when you go, if anyone to go see it, stick around for the credits because there's a mid credit scene and there's also an end credit scene. I recommend it. So, what are you going to talk about? I I think I did see it. It was a long time ago. So what surprised you the most in the movie? Uh, shall we try and stay spoiler free for this? Because obviously want people who are listening to this and watching us to go see it. 1982. That's like that's quite long for a 1980s movie because usually like 3 hour movies you didn't usually start until the 2010s, even late 2000s. So yeah, it's quite surprising. So I guess was he the director? Was he? See, that's I've just learned something. I didn't know Richard Attenborough did directing. I thought only did acting. And it's a well, I want to talk about a Disney Plus original series called Monsters at Work, um, and base, basically this TV series, although it follows feature rather follows, although it features the original cast, for example, Mike, Sully, and Roz, etc. It actually centers around a character called Tyler Tuskman, who is basically the most unluckiest monster you could possibly get because he is basically fresh out of Monsters University, and the series starts on his first day as a scare actor. But unfortunately for Tyler, it's the day they switch from scare to laughter. It starts the day it starts where the Monsters Inc. Finished. So when they switch to laughter, that's his first day, and the first episode of the series. And so basically, he is reassigned to the myth department instead. This is all in the first few minutes of the first episode. So the myth department is basically the Monsters Incorporated facilities team. So basically, the service engineers people. And as he does this while he trains to be funny, and his boss is a character called Fritz, who is played by Henry Winkler. And obviously, I don't think I need to explain who Henry Winkler is, but he's obviously a very famous actor. And Tyler is played by Ben Fieldman, who is Jonah in Superstore. It's uh, yes, they are. It's all the original cast. It's yeah, but I think Disney wanted to do it right and have the original cast. Um, and it's a 10 episode season, and there's an underlying narrative that follows all 10 episodes. So basically, that underlying narrative is basically him wanting to be a scare actor and trying his hardest to become a scare actor. It's not a scare actor. I've got Halloween Horror Nights in my head, like a laughter to get basically he's trying to get onto the last floor is basically what he's trying to do in all 10 episodes. But the main theme and story of each episode is different. And lots of people have criticized it, but I personally loved it. think so. Mm-hmm. So basically, it's doing what Voldemort did. Was funny you mentioned Chucky and Ghostbusters Afterlife. When the kids go to when the kids goes to the summer school, the teacher puts on Chucky on the TV as while he basically looks at seismology sort of stuff. And I don't know if that's actually a movie or if it's actually the TV series you're talking about. Yeah, so I reckon it was a movie then that they showed. Because I've not actually seen Chucky at all. I know it's quite shocking. Yeah, not really. No, I like for example, like Universal Studios. Like I've done Halloween Horror Nights, and I loved Halloween Horror Nights, but actually watching a horror movie is not my bag type of thing. Mm-hmm. And and for me, I am gender fawn, which is kind of like gender fluid, except I'm fluid between male and non-binary. And I'm also pan demi romantic, and I'm also asexual. If you didn't know that already. Yeah, so I like see I'm greedy of my LGBTQ plus flags. So I've got the LGBTQ plus flag, I've got the trans flag, I've got the non-binary flag, I've got the asexual flag, I've got the pansexual flag, and I've got the demi flag. So basically greedy. Actually, I haven't come prepared with another one, but I could talk about a series that I've just finished watching, which is Junior MasterChef Australia. If you want, yeah. So Junior MasterChef Australia is a 13 episode season, and it's actually the first Junior MasterChef Australia. And if you were going to be having a like a sort of like a drinking game every time I say Junior MasterChef Australia. But anyway, in the series, it basically it's the first one since I think 2010, 11, 2011, I think. They've had like a 10-year break or something like that. Can't don't know if it was 10 years or 8-year break, but there's been a big gap between the second season and the third season. Yeah. And it starts off with 14 contestants from all over Australia, and the judges in the program are the same judges for the main MasterChef Australia. And surprisingly, one of the judges is Scottish, which is quite surprising to me. But obviously, his accent's kind of like got an Australian twang to it, because obviously he's been living there for quite a while. But anyway, it's more about the kids, and I think the children in the program, like they're either not the children, but the children themselves. Yeah, they're super talented. Like what they can produce is like restaurant quality food. It's like I was quite surprised because in the I don't mean to sound being patronizing to them because they're fantastic cooks. But like in MasterChef, Junior MasterChef here, I think the producers and the judges patronize the contestants because they have them cook like basic stuff, like really really basic stuff. Whereas in the Junior MasterChef Australia this year, they had them cooking like it was like some sort of it's a cake which had a mirror glaze on it, and then it had various different kinds of creams, like the mint cream, and then it had like a crystal clear sugar dome that's laid on top of it, and like that is some yeah, and that's something which obviously you probably get in master chefs or professionals who here. So like and kids aged 10 and 12, like they were producing this, and I thought it was absolutely incredible. And and the challenges that they had them do was quite good. Like for example, one of the episodes was where they had to hero a vegetable. So one of the contestants heroed fennel, and they made like a fennel like sorbet, and there's like fennel something like loads of different like fennel type things in a pudding, and it looked really incredible. And then another person did like a carrot cake, and it had a neither did the judges, but it worked. Um, and then the other part did like a fennel, sorry, fennel, did a carrot cake, which had like another mirror glaze on top of it, and it was it was the character. It was a character. It was a contestant called Philo that did that. Um, and my favourite contestants throughout the whole thing was a character called I keep saying character. Contestant called Dev. Now Dev traditionally does like sort of like Indian type cuisine, and he was absolutely incredible. And he didn't do any of the I wouldn't say the cook. I can't really call it, but the cook off. I'd call it a cook off, but that's not what they call it, because he kept winning all the challenges, so he got immunity from doing that every time. And then my other favorite contestants was Philo and Carter. Yeah, but they call it something else. Yeah, and but yeah, there was other things where they had to like hero honey, so they had to go and collect, put in bee suits and collect honey from the garden, and then run back in and. Yeah, so basically when you hear it, it has to be the star of the dish. So you can't like for example when for the final one, for example, they had to be able to taste the fennel. If you know what I mean, it can't be disguised. So to hero the fennel, you have to be able to know it's there and be able to taste it. Whereas another contestant heroed courgette or zucchini, and it, although it made a really nice dish, they couldn't taste the zucchini in the dish at all. So it was unsuccessful. And the Australian and the Australians as well. I think it's just us and the French that call it courgette. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found the book like it lasted a very long time. I think it took me. Can you remember how long it took me to read it? Can you? It was about. Yeah, I think it took me about a couple of months to read it, maybe, because it's so obviously it's a massive book. And I said to myself, although like I read it, I wasn't going to read any more of it because of the book. I think the book length put me off. Uh, yeah, it, Yes, quite a big commitment, 22 books. And I, you see, I should know because I've started reading the Guardians of Gahul series. Or started last year. Was it last year I started? I think. And there is 16 books in the main series. There is three or four prequel books, which is basically so the Guardians of Gahul is basically follows owls, and it's Soren who's goes to the Great Gahul Tree. Big franchise, big like story building, big world, much like Dune. And then so the prequel follows around a horse, but it's in the same sort of world. And then there is a midquel sort of book which follows polar bears, and then there is a series of books which is 5 books, which is kind of starts towards like book 15, I think, of the main series, and then carries on after the main series is over, and it follows a pack of wolves, but it's all set in the same world. Yeah, I read every single book in that series. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. I think that's one of the reasons why I stopped because with like June because the words are so long-winded and difficult. Because like for me, when I read it, I read more middle grade books. So like people books like yeah. So for me, that's the sort of books that I read. And so like for example, I'm reading a series called uh, the Shapeshifter, and I've been reading that for quite a while now. And I could have finished it a long time ago, but because I'm so enjoying it, I don't really want it to end. So I'm like reading other books in between um, the each book in the series. And there's six for that book. There is it's written by Ali Sparks, and there is six books in the main series. But here's where it's a bit difficult because there's five books in a sequel series, and the way the author intends you to read it is you read the first five books of the main series, then you read the five books in the sequel series before you go back to the sixth book in the main series. Because that's how, yeah, that's how it's written anyway. Because the first five books were written in the first, then the five books in the sequel were written, and then she wrote a sixth book for the main series. Finding the Fox, yes. Yeah. I guess, oh yeah, go on. I was going to say, about finding about spirit animal series, I was just going to say that it gets more and more dramatic and like kind of like not wouldn't say horror, but more like more scary, kind of, as the series goes on. More dark, more it goes like more thriller, adventure, fantasy, but obviously can't be too dark, obviously, because it's for middle grade, but it touches middle grade slash young adult sort of territory. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, but because I try to stay family friendly in my sort of narrative. But yes, she is. I'm glad she's banned from the reunion, or is that what you're about to say? Yeah, I think you kind of get like a clue about the darkness of where it's going to go from the ending of the first bit. But obviously, I'm not going to say what happens because obviously you know what happens. I know what happens, but I don't want to spoil it. But it's pretty dark at the very end, at the end of it. Mm-hmm. 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 It sounds like a good series, so it does. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it actually sounds, you know, quite good, to be honest. And what I was wanting to touch on was just quickly, obviously, if we've only got like 3 minutes left or something, but when, you were talking about how they included the LGBTQ Plus. In that series. Our more recent one that's done that and quite surprising was Disney's movie Luca. Have you seen it? So Luca is very pro LGBTQ plus, and although they don't like say outright like this is what it is, but I know some people in the community don't like this word, but also some people identify it in the community as well. But the two main characters are kind of like a queer couple, but they don't actually say they are, but it's pretty obvious that they are. That's all I'll say. So it's quite good for Disney to actually do that. Yeah. But yeah, it's obvious if you know that if you know about it. But they haven't officially confirmed it, but there has been talk that they are. Yeah. It is, yeah. But and also it features disability in a positive way as well. So one of the characters in it has a born with disability as opposed to an acquired disability, which is really good as well. Yeah. Slightly different. Yeah, it could be a good idea. Yeah, I was gets us to obviously need to have a lot of preparation. I'm going hopefully I'm going to see Enchanto at the cinema on Friday. So hopefully I'll have that to talk about. Okay. Bye.